There was once a very overweight man who tried everything to lose weight, but no matter what he did, he always failed, either falling into the trap of overeating or losing motivation to go to the gym. Eventually, he gave up hope and thought the only solution left was stomach reduction surgery. But his doctor, seeing his condition, decided to try one last experiment with him. He told him, "Follow this plan for just 2 weeks. After that, you can eat whatever you want, as much as you want, and you won't even need surgery." The plan was simple yet brutal. Eat only plain boiled potatoes for 2 full weeks. No salt, no spices, no drinks, just potatoes. Because the man had already lost hope, and since it was only 2 weeks, he pushed himself to accept the challenge. For 14 days straight, he ate nothing but boiled potatoes. He later said that the first food he tasted after this experiment was a single corn kernel, and to his surprise, it was the most delicious thing he had ever eaten. The same happened with fruits and vegetables. Processed sweets and pastries suddenly felt too sugary, even unpleasant. And thanks to this experience, he found it easy to stick to a healthy lifestyle, work out consistently, and finally lose weight. We are now living in the age of distraction. A simple task that you could easily complete 10 years ago now requires much more willpower and energy. Why is that? Because most of us today suffer from what you could call dopamine damage. Our brain's reward center has been rewired. Let me simplify it. Imagine you have a simple task like taking out the trash. Before the era of endless reels, addictive video games, Mr. Beast challenges, overly sweet processed foods, and all the modern luxuries we have today, this task would have been nothing. Your brain wouldn't have considered it difficult at all. But now, because of constant distractions, and because your brain is used to getting dopamine instantly, just from scrolling TikTok for example, suddenly this task feels hard. Your brain begins feeding you excuses to procrastinate. Let's take out the trash after we eat something. It won't take long. Let's check Instagram first. Let's play a little Elden Ring before going out. And maybe right now, while watching this video, your brain is telling you, skip ahead to the part where he talks about Togashi's return. Whenever you're about to complete even the smallest task, your brain creates a slight sense of pain because it has become addicted to the easy dopamine. But here's the trick. If you were an employee and your boss demanded that report by tomorrow, you would definitely finish it on time. Why? Because in your brain's calculation, the pain of being scolded by your boss is stronger than the pain of procrastinating. The brain understands this equation very well. That's why, even if you're the biggest procrastinator in the world, there will always come a moment where you finally gather your strength and do what must be done. Now, imagine you own a furniture store, but one day you just don't feel like working, so you shut it down for an entire week to rest. After that week, your brain starts pushing you back to work because it understands that the future pain of not having money for food or bills is far greater than the current comfort of procrastination. That's why most people today aren't really suited for true self-employment, even though it's the current trend. Many end up creating an imaginary boss to pressure themselves into getting things done. For example, let's say I'm too lazy to upload a video. To push myself, I announce to my audience, a new video will drop in 3 days. By doing this, I've created a deadline, a promise, almost like a contract with all of you that forces me to deliver. And in a way, Togashi isn't really a procrastinator at all. His situation is very different due to his chronic back pain. But when he created his Twitter account and began posting updates about his progress, part of it was exactly this, holding himself accountable by sharing with us. My name is Psycho, and today we're here to talk about the long-awaited return of Togashi and the revival of Hunter x Hunter. When Togashi finally returned after 4 long years of silence with his new Twitter account, I was overjoyed, and not just because Hunter x Hunter would continue, but because, for the first time, we would learn the truth behind his long absence and his health struggles. This man had completely vanished for 4 years. Through his posts, we discovered shocking details about his daily life. Togashi admitted, in his own words, that he eats less food because even sitting on the toilet is painful for him. him. He said he often ends up showering after using the bathroom because he struggles to clean himself. We even saw his strange method of sitting in order to draw and how much pressure he puts on himself just to complete a manuscript draft. At that moment, I realized that Togashi wasn't just creating a Twitter account to share progress. He was opening up to us, his readers, showing his reality. And at the same time, he was motivating himself by placing an imaginary boss above his head through the awareness that fans around the world were now watching his every update. As expected, Togashi delivered his usual 10 chapters before falling back into silence once more. But this time something changed. At the end of chapter 400, his editor wrote that Hunter x Hunter would no longer follow a weekly schedule and would no longer remain in weekly Shonen Jump. Instead, due to Togashi's health condition, the series would be transferred to another monthly magazine under Shueisha, following a new publication system. Back then, I was actually relieved by this news. I thought it was a very good change. Why? Because it meant the possibility of longer chapters, maybe 30 pages instead of 20. And since Hunter x Hunter is already one of the densest manga in terms of events and dialogue, where a single chapter takes time to read and analyze, 30 pages per month would surely satisfy us all. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. During Togashi's second return, the magazine cancelled the plan to move Hunter x Hunter to a monthly publication. The reason was purely commercial. At that time, both My Hero Academia and Jujutsu Kaisen were nearing their endings. So if Hunter x Hunter also left Shonen Jump, the magazine's sales numbers would drop drastically, and so they decided to keep the series in Jump. That was disappointing news for me. But at the same time, Togashi's second comeback was still fantastic, because we received incredible updates. First, Togashi tweeted that he had already written the events of 50 future chapters, meaning the storyline for 50 chapters ahead was already detailed and mapped out in his mind. This was a huge relief, because it meant he had a clear roadmap for the series. Even more impressively, at that time Togashi wasn't just drawing one draft per day. His pace had increased to an average of 3 or even 4 drafts daily. And the good news didn't stop there. Togashi announced that he would keep going, that his goal was to complete 30 chapters. For a while it was pure bliss. We were reading brand new chapters while simultaneously following Togashi's daily progress on Twitter. Many of us truly believed the manga would finally continue with at least 20 consecutive chapters. Those were good times indeed. The chapters themselves were some of the strongest in the entire Succession War arc. At the same time, Togashi was pushing himself, advancing all the way to the manuscript for chapter 424. It was such an exciting period that I even launched this channel during that time, and despite being brand new, I received a huge wave of support from all of you. But nothing good lasts forever. Togashi stopped tweeting and we stopped receiving any updates. And honestly, as the months passed, I started to feel genuinely discouraged. But even if the pace is slow, one thing is certain: Togashi will return. And yes, my friends, just a few days ago he tweeted again, announcing that chapter 413 is nearly complete, with his assistants working on the finishing touches. That means we currently have about 3 chapters almost ready: 411, 412 and 413, just waiting for the final polish from his team. Togashi's last 2 returns both happened in October, so there's a small chance this comeback could also happen in October. But realistically, the bigger possibility is that Hunter x Hunter will return at the start of the new year, just 4 months from now. It all depends on his next tweet. If he announces progress on chapter 414 within the next week, or if he and his assistants finish a chapter in under 2 weeks, then yes, we might see the manga return as early as October or November. But if progress remains slower, then most likely we'll have to wait until the beginning of the new year. And here's the truth: if the manga stops and Togashi goes silent, I tell myself I don't mind. Even 1 new chapter is enough to keep the dream alive. But the moment Togashi tweets a comeback, I can't help but feel overjoyed, knowing we'll get at least 10 chapters. Then, when I begin reading those 10 chapters, I feel they are not enough, and I immediately wish for more. And once the chapters end, the cycle repeats itself again and again. Maybe it's time I open my eyes and admit, what really matters is not just Togashi's return, but the number of chapters we get each year, because 10 chapters per year is simply not enough anymore. At that pace, the story may never truly reach its conclusion. I was shocked to realise that the last appearance of Ging and Pariston was more than a decade ago, and at this rate, we may not even see the end of the Succession War arc before 2030. It's honestly heartbreaking. I completely understand Togashi's health struggles, his pride, and his deep love for his craft, but as a fan, I can't help my own selfish wish. I want Hunter x Hunter to move forward, to continue its story, and one day to finally reach its end. When Togashi said he would try to continue drawing until chapter 430, I was overjoyed. I even convinced myself that maybe, finally, we wouldn't see so many breaks anymore, but reality turned out to be very different. I also understand that Togashi's perspective on Hunter x Hunter is not the same as ours, the readers. For most of us, Hunter x Hunter is the #1 manga, something we're deeply passionate about, excited for, and eager to see unfold with its brilliant storytelling and thrilling events. But for Togashi, it's a little different. In the end, he already knows how the story will flow, how it will end, and what's going to happen. His sense of enjoyment is not the same as ours. His goals are different, and that's why, as I've said, I respect his desire to finish his masterpiece in the way he envisions. Still, I believe the best thing for Togashi right now would be to fully transition to a monthly publication, with a slight increase in the number of pages per chapter. That way, even if he still only produces 10 chapters a year, the total content would be more substantial. The discussions would continue, the events wouldn't fade from memory, and the manga would feel alive. If things continue exactly as they are now, though, it's inevitable that at some point readers will start to lose patience. But knowing how meticulous Togashi is, even with the smallest details, I'm sure this issue of publication schedule is on his mind, and I believe he will try to find a solution. Personally, I dream of the day when we get at least 30 chapters a year of Hunter x Hunter. But what about you? What do you think about this latest return? And what are your hopes for the future of the series and its publishing schedule?